This is the interpreter speaking. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but we cannot hear the presentation.
Yeah, I won't be here. Just letting you know. So that's great that you guys get to do all these fun things. The day is complete now because there's dogs in the back. So if there's anything that puts people at ease, it's puppies typically. So thank you for bringing your dogs. My name is Anthony Pacilio. It is cool to be here because when I walked in the door, I saw Todd and like there's friends, and I'm from Syracuse or near Syracuse. And so how many miles away are we? Hundreds and hundreds. And you see a familiar face. So I appreciate that. My job is I'm vice president of CAI Neurodiverse Solutions. And I'm going to talk about all that good stuff in a second. I'm going to give you kind of my backstory as well of kind of how I got here. And then we'll talk about neurodiversity in the workplace. Let's see if I can do the clicker things. Yeah, It's supposed to work. All right, we're gonna hit the arrow. How about that? Yeah, give it a shot there. How'd you do that? Oh, look at you. See, that's why we have her. Everyone give her a round of applause. She changes batteries and gets PowerPoint presentations to work. So, neurodiversity. As I kind of talk to everybody, most of this crowd, I think, is going to be somewhat versed. Does everybody know somebody who is neurodivergent by chance? Like, raise a hand. Yeah. All right. That's awesome. So differences in individual brain function, right? I am neurodivergent myself. So neurodiversity itself covers autism spectrum disorder. It covers dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, all the DISs, ADHD, social anxiety disorders, depression, PTSD, all of those things. I am neurodivergent. I have extreme social anxiety disorder, and I have depression. I am super open about it. My job is a couple things. I'm the brand and media ambassador, and I do all these things. So why not give all the speaking engagements to the guy who has extreme social anxiety disorder? So it just works out well. The bigger part of my job, and some of you know this, is I help companies and organizations build neurodiversity at work programs. I previously was global head of JP Morgan Chase's Autism at Work program for a number of years, helped start that. I left about 3 years ago this July, and by the time I left, we had 300 folks who were on the spectrum in 10 countries and 40 different job roles, which is super cool. All right, high five and you over there. And CAI, Neurodiverse Solutions, was the first service provider that I brought in to educate, train managers, colleagues, and also find amazing talent. So we're not actually called service providers as of 2 weeks ago. The name has changed in the industry. We are called external neuro-inclusion partners. The names will change every year probably, and that's okay. But the statistics are going to get closer and closer as the years go on, right? 1 in 5 people, neurodivergent, most prevalent is ASD. Got it. As all of you may or may not know, in your workplace, you do have neurodivergent individuals that are, as Todd and I were talking, to the left and to the right of you. You may not know it because they mask and cope so freaking well, kind of like I did for a number of years. 90% unemployment rate, 1 million young adults with ASD going to enter the job markets. That's going to be way more than that in about 2 years. So these numbers are kind of, they give you a little like raise your hairs, because I know that there's parents, caregivers, guardians in this room that are going, hey, what's going to be there for my child in a few years when the proverbial cliff comes about. It's my job now to help them find employment opportunities, and we'll get into that. I'm going to give you a little brief history of me. Some of it's fun, some of it's not so fun. So as a kid, I'm Italian, and I'm going to talk with my hands the whole presentation, right? For the next 30 minutes, your eyes are going to be everywhere. It was very challenging because my dad had 10 brothers and sisters. And so that meant we had 7,000 to 8,000 cousins. So when we had a party, to be noticed, to be recognized, to get food, you had to be in it to win it. And I was not that kid from an early age. I was definitely quirky. I was weird, but it's the 70s now that I've dated myself. And my parents didn't know what they didn't know. I have nothing against them. It was just a different time, different era. And as I grew up, I was bullied in grammar school or elementary school. Now it really shows my age when I say grammar school. So sorry to all the young people in here. I got picked on, had fights because I would either sit in the corner or I just wouldn't be engaged. I was relatively smart, but I was just awkward. And obviously, kids can be cruel. And it didn't get any better in junior high school. So I had to figure out a way to kind of like get out there. I still wasn't eating at home because of all the cousins. But once I hit junior high, hormones kick in and boy, testosterone, all that other good stuff. So my family was a sports family. So I figured the best way to get out there was to be good at sports. I was mediocre. I was a catcher in baseball. I played basketball, football, volleyball, all that good stuff. But I wasn't as good as my two older brothers. My older brothers are 10 and 7 years older. I was the oops baby. They're like, oh, we got a brother. And again, trying to fit in, being odd in social situations. Hopefully I'm not so odd today. I'm a little bit more comfortable. I got in a fight or two. I lost both, by the way, badly. I tried to defend myself the best I can, but no one else would defend me because I was kind of that odd kid. So I decided, hey, again, extreme social anxiety disorder, not diagnosed. Why don't you go into theater? Because that'll help. Boy, I am a glutton for punishment. So I decided to do a play, and sometimes that can bring on other things that kids say as well. But then I decided, well, I'm decent at it. I should go to school for radio and television. Just go all in at this moment. I'm going to go be a broadcaster on ESPN. I'm going to make it. And all the while, internally, losing my whole human being. I was probably the size of that extension cord. It was just brutal. And then I graduated college, did my best to get through. I moved to Florida. I worked at a dog track as a videographer because I thought that was going to get me into TV. And then 11 months later, after eating ramen noodles every single day, I decided to move to where my brother was in Delaware. And hey, why not a career change to go into banking? So for the next 25, 27 years, I was in banking. Interesting. So during that time in banking, my bosses didn't quite get who the heck I was, performance appraisals. And, I don't look people in the eye. I do a good job today, but I'm looking over all of your heads, just letting you know. It might be that you think I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at you. I couldn't even tell you what you got on. I would be a bad cop. What was he wearing? I have no idea. So needless to say, I'm in the banking industry, doing okay. And magically, I find my wife, I wasn't looking, but yeah, okay. So got married, had my son, and she thought I was quirky too. I was. And on our 20th wedding anniversary, which was in 2020. It was December 5th. On that day, I decided all of this, everything that I was, everything that I had inside me, I didn't want anymore. So I went into the state park, had my gun with me, and I tried to commit suicide that day. It was cold in December. I had a t-shirt on. I had nothing I had a cell phone. And, I can tell you the taste of steel will always be in my brain for the rest of my life. Tragic, terrible day. Luckily, I heard the helicopters above after they figured out where it was. And there is nothing to say that somebody who is neurodivergent, who has all these things, and who's never talked to anybody about this, when 6 police officers tell you to get on your knees in the mud, and then you go face down, and then your hands are behind your back, and then you hear the click of handcuffs. That is when all semblance of a human being was lost. So a long walk back to the trooper car, put me in the back, and the door opens 5 minutes later, and it's my wife. And all I could say was, "I'm sorry." And she just kind of looked at me. She's like, "Why?" I'm like, almost like, "How do you not know?" But that day changed the trajectory of my life. Not long after that, my marriage ended. My son was taken from me for the next 2 years for obvious reasons. But I had to figure out, like, how do I get this thing going again? I'm lucky today because obviously you can see I have a wedding ring on. Just recently got remarried. I have a great relationship with my son now, who's going to be a trooper, because he said, here's the tough part that I can never get through, but I'm going to get through it. He said, "Dad, I'm going to be a trooper so I can help save people like you." Lord. Um, that's always the toughest thing during the little speech. But what I do today is because I don't want other people to feel like I had to feel all my life. And all of the people in this room, you are the support. You are the people for other people at your jobs in life. You're here to understand, learn, whatever it may be out of today that you can take back. I don't care what it is. Is it the story? Is it one of the things I'm going to talk about in 2 minutes? I don't care. But if you take it back, my job is done. But what we really want to have happen is what I do today. I think I have the best job on the planet. I get to work with people who are talented, smart, literal, strong, all the good adjectives out there, but that other people don't see. I see that. All of you see that. So with that being said, I'm going to turn to probably the boring part of the presentation, but the fun part where I kind of talk about what we do on a daily basis. So CAI Neurodiverse Solutions, what I do today is an end-to-end employment program. And like I said, my job is to help companies start those programs. We try to take the risk out of what companies perceive is a challenging effort to employ people. Makes me laugh because, again, neurodivergent people are already there. You just got to figure it out. But we want to make sure that those folks who are struggling to get jobs because people don't know how to interview. I'm not saying that if there's HR people here today, please don't take this back. But there's alternate ways to interview, right? Maybe you don't need a panel interview. Maybe it's just a one-on-one. Maybe it's just 2 to 3 interviews at 20, 25 minutes. Not like a super day that is crushing to everybody. Maybe it's not looking for somebody who shakes your hand really firmly or looks you in the eyeballs. I read something just yesterday that employers, like 58% of the employers who didn't hire people coming out of college, It's because they didn't look them in the eye strong enough. I almost passed out reading that. Are you kidding me? Like, ask them skills and aptitude. That's part of what I do. I don't look for all that other stuff. I want to know if you can do the job. What's your passions? I don't care about a resume. I don't care where you worked before. If you volunteered at, what's the local grocery store here? Food Line. I heard Food Line. If you're volunteering at Food Line or you're a bagger, awesome. That gives you skills. I mean, might not be what you went to school for, but it's still skills. And we look to see that you're trying your best to get into the workforce. We're going to help you do that. Awesome. All of you are the advocacy folks. So when people go to get a job, I am a big proponent of disclosure. Not everybody is, and that's okay. It's a personal decision. But I also think it's incumbent upon the businesses to ask people up front, what do you need from us to be able to do this job the best you can? Like, be proactive about it and not say, and not have them wait until, 3 months down and be like, oh yeah, I need a mind mapper software, or I need a screen reader, or I need noise canceling headphones. And listen, not everybody's gonna disclose, and I get that, but if we can be a little bit more proactive on the front end, maybe that saves us a little challenge on the back end. Communicate clearly. Boy, if you're a manager of people, this is a skill that I would love everybody to figure out as best they can. I will tell you a story about communication. When I was at Chase and we were starting our program, right, we had 4 QA testers that we're bringing in. That's how we started it. And we said, hey, listen, great opportunity. Anybody here want to manage a team of neurodivergent individuals? People raise their hand. Boy, was that the wrong way to go about it. The first thing we should have done is, if they did raise their hand, and sometimes they raise their hand for the wrong reason, because they thought it would get them a promotion, or looks good on a resume. We should have been asking the team that they manage now, how do they give their feedback? How do they communicate to you? How frequently is it? Are they empathetic? Or, do they have a heart? Like, literally all the things in a good manager, that would be awesome to have done. So we screw that one up. So lesson learned. Anthony doesn't do that anymore. We literally go vet the managers who are going to be associating with our folks coming in. Boundaries and self-care. Listen, I crossed pretty much every boundary that fateful day in 2020. But now, regardless of cardio, I'm not doing cardio. Self-care is what I aim to do on a daily basis. I get up every morning, and self-care doesn't have to be just you. It could be kissing your significant other, telling them I love you, hugging your kid on the way out the door. That's also self-care, because it shows emotion, it shows empathy, it shows compassion, it shows just love. And I think the biggest thing out of today, when you leave here as well, is that we all just need to be human beings and make sure that we're thinking like human beings when we walk out the door. So if somebody, just ask somebody, how the heck are you doing today? You may not get an answer from somebody who's got ASD, and they might be like, good, and gone. And that's okay. But at least you asked the question. All right. For all you folks that are looking to build a neurodiversity at work program, or you have one already, or you're just trying to build a neuro-inclusive community in your house, there's a couple things up here. Today, you're doing kind of the education part. And whatever wisdom that I bestow on you, which can sometimes be not a lot of wisdom, this is the part that we're trying to do today. Open dialogue. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, like, how you feeling today? Good. And then 2 minutes later, I'm doing something that I probably shouldn't be doing, and no one cares. And the open dialogue part is to come back and maybe ask a follow-up question a little bit later. And it's also to be very truthful about who you are, what you're doing, and what your workplace is like. There might be some things at your workplace that you don't feel is very cool. And I know we all have that thought of like, does everyone know what a CLM is? No? All right, awesome. Here we go. Career limiting move. No one wants to be that person that goes up and be like, hey, I think our culture kind of sucks. Like, I think we need to change it. And here's my suggestions. We need people like that to step forward and tell us the way that it should be sometimes. And I know, your bosses are like, I don't care. You're the change makers in here. I did my part. You're doing your part. Keep going. Okay, this is my favorite one. It's going to come up again. Inclusive meetings and events. I am all about giving the agenda for meetings as far in advance as we can. Sometimes there's meetings that just happen, right? But if you can give the agenda out beforehand, it gives people who are neurodivergent time to digest that information because some of us have delayed processing and it takes us a minute or 12 to figure that out. And we might have great questions to ask, but if we go into that meeting and you might not get a response out of us. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, hell, Sally doesn't, she never has anything to say in these meetings. Oh, she does, but you didn't give her enough prep time. Again, that's only if you can. Sometimes meetings come up and that happens. Also, designing inclusive meetings is, can they do it virtually? Can they, even though you're in person, can they sit at their desk and still take that meeting from their computer? And here's another thing. I know you guys are like, well, why would you do that? Some people aren't good in a crowd, right? A weird thing has occurred that when we get on Teams or Zoom or whatever we have at this point, if we're on camera, we expect everybody else to be on camera. I could care less if you're on camera or not. And I know a lot of people say, if I'm on camera, you need to be on camera too. How does that have a bearing on anything? You think because I'm not on camera, I'm feeding my dog or, doing the laundry? Like most people, of course, that's my phone. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a quick story as to why that is ringing. So I'm trying to buy a house today, and the mortgage guy is blowing me up. So I'll get it after this. Man, where was I going with this? Todd, help me. Where was I? See, welcome to being neurodivergent. I lost it. Well, oh, cameras. Hello. Thank you. I appreciate that. So there's a lot of bosses that just
Wait a second. I just want you to know, you want me to take that call with your finance guy?
Can you give me a lower rate? I mean, that would be great. That would be great, actually. And so the camera piece is not something that I think needs to be embedded into the work culture. I will say this though, clients, like if you're whining and dining a new client, that could be a challenge, right? They might want to see your face. I know that we all have bad hair days too. That happens. I do it as well. Maybe I have a baseball hat on or a t-shirt, and maybe I should have a CAI shirt on. But it doesn't mean that I'm not doing my job. So if you're a manager of individuals and your company has not mandated it, that you have to be on camera, give somebody a break. And this is all universal design, right? Like everything that we talk about today is good for neurotypical people as well. It's not just for neurodivergent individuals. So flexible work arrangements. I know, I skipped the first two, but we can always come back to that. Flexible work arrangements are absolutely massive right now. A couple of years ago, we're all wearing masks and we're all sitting at home and on our computers. And now companies are wanting people to come back to the office, which is great. If that's what your company is looking for, awesome. But what can you do to be accommodating to somebody who might have ASD and is better off in work environment if they're at home in their own space and they do just as good a job? Are they getting their work done? Is their productivity fine or even better because they're working from home? Is it necessary to be in the office each day? I get that certain jobs have to be in the office. I totally get it. There's regulatory stuff, there's federal things and financial things. But for those who don't necessarily need to be in the office, can you work 4 10s? Did I hear like somewhere in Europe they're doing like 3 10s or something like that, or they're working like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? I might move to Europe. But those things are helping society and helping people's work-life balance too. I'm sure there'll be a study done whether or not that it was good for the company, in the next couple of years, and maybe that's already come out. But we need to be thinking outside of the box, right? As neurodivergent individuals, we think differently typically, and we just want to make sure that everybody else is understanding where we come from. So as much as you can, if you're a manager, try to be as flexible as you can. And I know sometimes there's paperwork that needs to be done on flexible work arrangements, and it sucks. I get it. And people got to sign off and all this other good stuff. But for some people, it's awesome. Career development. Are any of you in here a mentor or a peer mentor? Anybody? Okay, and that's okay. So this career development piece doesn't necessarily need to be the career. It could be just being a good person and a friend and being able to talk to somebody at work about work, personal life aside. I always encourage folks, if you're in a company and they have a peer mentorship program, to join. And especially if you have a neurodiversity at work program, even better. Folks need a little bit of professional development. I mean, I still need it because I say the word sucks a lot. And that's okay. But I am who I am at this point in my life. I'm probably not going to change, and that's okay. But there's a lot of folks who want to move up. When I say that most of the folks that come to us are entry level, I mean, they're pretty much younger, maybe between the ages of 18 and 25. This is their first job. They don't know what to expect. We need folks like yourselves to be able to say, hey, listen, Bob, this is what it's going to look like here. These are the next steps. And a lot of folks who come in don't just want to be a data analyst one for the rest of their life. And we find a lot of clients and organizations are like, yeah, I need 4 of this entry level position. The question that we give back to them is, I need to know that you have data entry number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Can they switch divisions? Because I don't want a company that's just going to hold people down. It's great. You're giving them jobs. This is not charity. It's a business decision. There's a lot of different pluses that go into hiring people who think differently. So we want to make sure that they have some sort of career pathing before they get to that job.
I think that mentor piece is very important especially for someone that's neurodivergent, because what you'll find is a lot of managers are not very clued into the actual work. They may be technical managers, but they really don't know what the hell's going on in their own environment. And having a technical mentor that knows the work and can explain to the manager that this person's doing good work. I mean, I've seen situations where a neurodivergent individual missed a milestone because they went back and they rewrote the whole code stack because it was crap. They had tons of flaws in it. And he said, I was told I needed to go make this one thing. It just wasn't possible until I rewrote the whole code stack. So you need someone that goes and says, boss, this guy just in, 20 hours, blasted out, rewrote our whole code stack, and now it's flawless. You need someone to bridge the gap and explain that, yeah, this guy took a little longer to finish his milestone, but because he took that longer period of time, he actually saved our bacon in the long run, right? So you need that person to connect the actual work to the hiring manager and explain and remove those communication errors.
And I'll tell you, what we do initially kind of solves that issue on the front end. So when we bring people in, we don't bring like just one person in to do one job. We bring a cohort of individuals. It's usually 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 doing the same job type, but they also have a neurodiverse certified team lead along with them, right? So they're the conduit between our folks in the management team, making sure that nothing is missed. And if there's any direction that needs to be, kind of given, they understand completely. That tribe mentality, that camaraderie is a winner in our eyes. I think when we are starting up a program, that's the only way that we like to do the model, instead of just placing one person in finance and one person in data entry, because we want the team lead to be that glue, right? They are initially the mentor. They are the manager. They are the job coach. They are everything to these folks coming in. And we have some folks that have been in the workforce for like 30 years that now come to us and say, listen, I've been job hopping for the last 30 years. It's 2 years. My manager didn't understand me. Can you help me? And yes, we can. And we're going to be supportive as well. The other piece to that from a mentor perspective is we're teaching companies how to fish. We want them to do it themselves on however long that it is. But it should be built into the DNA of their company, right? It should be into their HR organization, their onboarding, their talent acquisition, their learning and development. This should be just what they do on a daily basis. Not everybody's there just yet.
Hey, I have a 1 page on the mentor thing if you ever need it.
See, look, Todd's here for me.
I'll share it.
Thank you, Todd. Candidates, right? Okay. So the fun part of understanding neurodiversity is understanding all the things that we just talked about. It's all the quirks and the different things that go into it. We have folks that have Tourette's. That can be a difficult conversation from an interview perspective. And if that person doesn't disclose that they have Tourette's and something occurs during the interview, most managers or hiring managers or HR are like, I'm out. That this is something that I don't want to deal with, but they also don't know that they can do the job superbly, and that there might be some sort of accommodation that can be provided to that individual. Job descriptions. Okay. So who's still using the job description from 1979 and that hasn't changed anything? Like my favorite line is the job description that goes through the responsibilities that the job doesn't really require. And it also says you need 5 years of basket weaving 101. Who the heck has that? And is it necessary to do the job? We go in and we strip job descriptions just to what is necessary for the job. And most of the time when we do a deep dive into what the job actually is, it's not even that job description. It's something completely different. And then they're like, oh yeah, we probably should have changed that in 1989. But we're going in and making sure that we take out all the gobbledygook that's in there and just what is necessary. Here's what happens. And it's different in males and females. Neurodivergent individuals, and I said it earlier, pretty literal, right? So if it says this, okay, great, I might have this. If there's one thing in there that they don't have, they don't apply. And we're missing so many folks. And females are even more selective. It seems as if there's a word in there that doesn't match their skill set, they're out. And that's terrible. We have done a horrible job at designing job descriptions to make sure that they're inclusive. And I think we'll get better at it, but just if you're an HR person, go back and take a look at some of that stuff. Some of it's legal. I know you don't want to get sued. Got it. Great. Still keep that in there. But those job responsibilities, mandatory, required, whatever it is, go look at them. Application methods. Holy cow. So you're all going, well, yeah, you just go online and you punch it in and then it goes to me and then I get it in the filter and I'm like, look, and I go left, right, swipe. There's a joke in that too. But there's other ways to go through the application process. We actually use a neurodiverse friendly hiring platform that uses gamification, doesn't have time limits, don't need to do video, but you could do video. Like there's a lot of different ways to find out who an individual is, but not just submitting a form online and hitting it. Like there has to be some talk. And I know that HR folks give that initial phone call, but we actually let the individuals bring an advocate with them in the first interview. Because it might be their first job, it might be their 10th job, but maybe there's something in there that just doesn't sit right. Okay, awesome. The next couple interviews, though, going through, we might try to have them just do it on their own, which is fine. But we have folks who have high support needs, and we also have folks that have low support needs. We're running the gamut on the community. So not everybody's going to need an advocate in there, but offering it is pretty huge. Flexible interview processes. We kind of talked about that. Shorten those 6-hour interviews and panel interviews. So does any of your companies still do panel interviews? Any raise of hands? Okay. All right. So can I ask a question? It's rhetorical, so don't answer because I don't want anybody to have to speak. So if I'm at a table, or I'm the guy, and I'm looking at these 3 individuals, and Todd asked me a question, and I have delayed processing. I hear it in my head, and it's got to get out my mouth. But it takes me a second. A lot of folks, not you, Todd, are like, oh my God, he doesn't know the answer. All right. Next person goes, all right, well, maybe you didn't understand that. And then here's the next question. Well, I was just about to give that answer, but now you're asking me another one. I don't even know what the hell Todd said. What? Okay, go. And then, okay, I'm thinking about it. And now you're in. How is that even fair? How is that assessing if a candidate can do a job? So I'm not saying that all panel interviews are not for, specific jobs, but if we could think about it and move on from those things, you're minimizing a whole amazing talent group because of rapid fire or looking left, looking right, and all that good stuff. Sorry, Sarah Beth, I should be talking into the mic. I get it.
Well, I think that the social construct is where we, right? You're hiring someone that you want maybe to write code or to be an electrical engineer, and you're looking for his capabilities in electrical engineering or thermal engineering or whatever, and you're actually evaluating him based on his social skills.
Agreed.
It's a serious mistake.
That's the culture of the business, and that's something that we are trying to change with all the things that we're talking about here.
But if you ask the hiring manager who's an ex-engineer himself, what does he really care about? Does he care about 100 lines or 1,000 lines of flawless code, or does he really care about the whether or not that individual knows who won the Monday Night Football game? He's going to tell you that he wants the 1,000 lines of flawless code, but his HR team is evaluating them based on his social skills.
I got you. That's a whole performance management. That's another hour and a half. And thermal engineering, I have no idea what that is. All right, accommodations. I know we're almost there to the Q&A part. I got you. I checked my watch. I was like, oh, sugar. I got to get going. Quiet workspaces, right? I think I saw some out here, like eggs. And does anyone know what eggs are? They look like an egg, and you get in them, and you can just like chill out, and it's kind of around your head and stuff like that. I love eggs. Also having separate rooms that are quiet rooms. Sweet. I know not every company is able to afford to do that, but do not make it a janitorial closet if you're looking for a quiet space, because that's just wrong. Assistive technology. So I know I skipped task structuring in there. Assistive technology. That's a lot of different things. Oops, just touching that mic too. That's noise canceling headphones. That's software. That's AI stuff that we just keep hearing about left and right, but it does work in certain capacities. It's mind mapping. I will tell you something that's not technology that is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So we had this individual at JP Morgan Chase who had anxiety like myself. And on her desk each morning was, I don't know if you guys know, but it's like a little flip chart. And it had red, yellow, and green on it. So ingenious. So if it was green, she was approachable. She'd say, good morning. getting in, ask her questions, awesome sauce, right? If it's yellow, you're like, huh, do I really need to ask her the question now? And if it's important, you have to do it. But maybe I just wait a minute. She's kind of feeling a little of the anxiety. Next thing is red. If you see red, you won't see her because she's not at her desk. She's out walking 15 minutes, resetting herself to come back in. And hopefully that either flips back to yellow or green. But what an amazing way to be able to tell your peers without having to tell your peers that, you know, today is either a good day or it's a little bit of a struggle or it's just, I'm out. My wife, my now wife would love that. She would love to put that in front of me and be like, Aunt, it's a red day. You're out, go do something else. And I'm sure a lot of managers would love to have that on their desk so people don't come up to them. I get it. It works in certain capacities, but for her, it was a godsend. She was the most productive person because we knew how to support her. Workplace modifications, awesome. So we do site surveys when we go to a new client looking at their building, right? A lot of the times we don't put folks who are neurodivergent next to windows because I have ADHD too. I didn't say that, but squirrel, right? I got the squirrel in the window. I'm just going to watch that for the next 5 minutes. And so typically we'll place somebody who has those tendencies or traits in the middle. We don't put a TV on a pole in front of them or anything like that. We've had people who don't like people walking behind them. So we go to 5 and below and buy a $5, obviously, mirror and put it on their computer so they can see people walking back and forth. Noise canceling headphones, probably everybody knows about. We had one person who was sensitive to light. So these lights are pretty decent. He had a visor, looked like he was a financial accountant. He had that visor on, right? So it would deflect the light. Simple little things like that make the difference in people's lives. Regular breaks and transition time. A lot of our folks with ASD were crushing their job. They would finish their job in 4 hours. They wouldn't take a break or lunch. So we had to reassess and make sure that they were taking those transition times and taking a moment for themselves. Executive function skills, which I don't know if everybody knows, but time management is one of those things that can escape people, even myself, because I have 14 minutes. Awesome. I got to it. Whew. All right. So now's the time where you can pepper me with questions that I may not be able to answer. If you so want to, you don't have to speak. I know. Oh, yes.
I don't work in this area whatsoever. I was just curious about the topic. But when you talk about all these accommodations, I don't think employers give those accommodations even to quote unquote normal people. I don't remember my managers worrying about my state of mind or what I was doing. So I'm just wondering how much of a challenge is that when they don't even give it to quote unquote normal employees?
Okay. So here's the thing. So we're talking neurodiverse individuals and then neurotypical employees. And no, that's fine. See, I'm here for you. Not all businesses are adept. A lot of businesses today have their own DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. They call it, there's 72 different names for that at this point. Every letter of the alphabet's being used to describe that, right? From a culture perspective and whatnot. I think an employer who thinks about their people in a holistic way would, if somebody told them, like, have you ever considered, do you have a program such as, or Mary is very sensitive to noise and light, like, I would think they would want to do something to keep Mary if she was a great employee. And even if she wasn't a great employee, giving her these little mechanisms might make her a great employee. Like, I think it's being, again, it's going back to being human, right? So there's two ROIs in this, the return on investment. There's one for the company of productivity and numbers and profitability. And then there's the return on investment for the human being, right? That person who is not getting those accommodations, or, you know, their manager's not looking, you know, to provide that, or doesn't understand, they don't know what that person's been through, right? So maybe by providing X, Y, and Z, they found a new self-confidence. Maybe there's a responsibility that they're going to gain. Like, there's a lot of things that would go along with trying to give somebody simple things. I think if your employer doesn't recognize that in 2024, I would love to have a conversation. I would love to see what the culture is like inside that company. Not every company is going to be woke, as they say. We just need to figure out how to get the unwoke ones woke.
But I would also say that every company wants to be more profitable, right? So I like this saying, rising water lifts all boats. And those noise canceling headsets, which I've got the best one on the market, right, in the back here. And if you realize that if everyone can work in an undistracted, where they're not distracted by hearing someone talking behind it, because we all work around loud talkers, right? You know, you're the guy that sits 14 rows that way, you can hear everything they're saying. If you have an ANC headset and it allows you to concentrate on your calls, you're more productive, but you're neurotypical, but that still makes you more productive. So I think that and the other analogy I like to use is that a neurodivergent individual was communicated to a company that we work here with, actually it's state of North Carolina, UNC Teach, to one of my friends that she was looking to leave our company. And so because she didn't know how to ask for an accommodation from her manager, and somehow it came back to me because I was championing the initiative. Turns out that when I went to her manager, she was the best employee that manager had. She was leaving the company. She was just looking for a place to go. So by making this small accommodation, he got to keep that best employee. And I think 6 months later, she was promoted to assistant vice president. So my point is that most companies want to retain their top talent. And by making these accommodations, they're allowed to do so. We just need to communicate to them that there is this.
It's a cultural thing too.
I agree with you 100%. I'm just saying there's a lot of employers out there that don't always recognize that.
Yes, I agree. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help. So I see 3 hands. What's that? Oh, okay.
From an employee standpoint, do you have any questions or any tips for having neurodiverse conversation with employers? How does a person explain their panic attacks or depression to a manager?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think that I don't know if they have disclosed or not, right? So if you've disclosed, it's a little bit of a easier conversation to have, because there's an expectation that, you know, if you've already explained that you have panic attacks, what does it look like? I can tell you that we had an individual who did have panic attacks. The manager was well aware, but we had a way to mitigate those panic attacks. If one of the colleagues or managers recognized that that individual was in a situation, we would maneuver that individual as best we could into one of our conference rooms. And we would have kind of a kumbaya moment. We would talk, we would say deep breaths. Go back to the question. Here comes neurodiversity in my brain again. What was the last part of that question?
How does a person explain their
panic
attack or
depression
or ADHD?
Well, yeah. Well, so if your manager is worth the weight of a quarter, then it should be a semi-easy conversation to explain that this is what may happen. These are the triggers that I have, and this is what it looks like potentially. And then you work out a game plan between you and your manager. You can involve HR if need be. That's entirely up to that person. but they do not need to disclose to anyone else besides that manager, right? That is just between them and the manager. I think just having the open conversation about having whatever challenge it is, that's the only way that you can deal with it. It's not like you can say to your manager, you know, I'm going to have a panic attack and, you know, I'm going to throw papers and this is what it's going to look like. Because it doesn't look the same every time. But the manager needs to know how to mitigate that before it gets escalated. So I think de-escalation processes and procedures, they help quite a bit. And that's, I mean, we have to teach that. We don't have enough time to do that. And I'm going to get you man in the back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go with the man in the back because he was raising his hand like 3 minutes ago. It's all you.
I think it's worse, but the thing, you mentioned 88, whatever that is, a few times. And the difference, I think, for us is that it's almost like a pain. The distractions aren't just distractions, it almost just hurts and overwhelms. And the thing that's changed, since you also brought up the 80s, is the music. It's in elevators, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm such a great lover of music. I've been a singer and I just love music and support it. But it distracts and almost sometimes, I don't want to say hurts, but it's debilitating to the point, and the volumes as well. And I just wonder, I don't even know how to, I know that's almost off topic, but it's just a subtlety that didn't come up. And I just thought, what are your thoughts on that? I'm not sure how to cope. I carry
earbuds. Yep.
Every day, always. And
yes.
I have a spare pair in my car. But they don't do a lot. You know, they only knock out a few decibels, right?
Okay.
And I'm reluctant to wear the big
canceling
because they attract so much attention. And here's the real problem, right? Music is wonderful. It heals you. It's such a wonderful thing that how could anyone be a naysayer to music?
Sure.
It's almost like we need more music, but when the music's around, I just want to, right? And enjoy the guitar player or the trumpeter or whatever the music might be, right?
So,
but it's not that. Music has been made into something else. Like I said, the elevator is
sure.
And doctors are, and TVs can be like that too. TVs are just they're in doctors. I should stop now.
No. Awesome. So I have sensory issues as well, right? So I was just at Disney and I was in a small world and I could have been in a large world. And literally, so I have Bose noise canceling earbuds, like and I press them in as hard as I can to drown out some of that noise. Work environments that have, and don't even need to talk about music in general, just noise, right? And I love music too, trust me. Not Queensryche, if anybody knows what that is, but I'm not a big metal fan. But I have to put those earbuds in too, and I love to listen to music. And it's something that I have to mask and every day and cope with. There's no getting around not listening, right? It's prevalent everywhere. You can talk to your employer if it's loud in the elevators to lower it a little bit, and you know that's fine. But wearing the big headset is, I know from an aesthetics point of view, it may not be the best, and you might feel that other people are judging because you're wearing those in public. But they are absolutely freaking awesome. I'm just saying, if you and I had a conversation outside of this, I would tell you, man, go put those damn things on.
I love my Bose, but with the glasses.
Yeah.
There's a period of time, it's usually less than 2 hours, where it's untenable because then that sensitivity started to.
Yep. No, don't be sorry. Awesome. No, it's awesome question. I would answer it 4,000 times a day. young lady in the glasses.
Sure. So one of the things that I've seen for over the years is I have dealt with many individuals with dyslexia and all sorts of other situations that you're describing. And to me, I always just said, oh, they have something undiagnosed going on. And dyslexia is the one that I think if you're well over 50, you know, that diagnosis was made, but many of these other diagnoses haven't been made. So my question is, there's many of these people still in the workforce that are well over 50, even 45 for that matter, that have not had the benefit of having a lot of healthcare intervention,
Sure.
things like that. So how do we help them cope if they don't even know that they're having some of these challenges?
Sure. Well, here's one thing that I always say. I'm not a clinician or a diagnostician, so I can't just walk up to people, even though I may suspect something and be like, hey, you know, you have ASD. It's like walking up to me and be like, you know what? You look like you have diabetes. And I am a diabetic, right? But you can't like say it to somebody per se. But it's about how you go about offering them solutions. Hey, listen, I saw that you were doing this. Did you ever think about, you know, X or Y? Having conversations like we have today help that education and getting the message out. It's difficult to just go to a friend or a colleague and be like, oh man, I know you have dyscalculia. Like, you know, it just can't add 2 and 2 and the numbers are looking like it's just not their gig, and that's okay. But I have a solution for you. I have this new Excel program where you just punch in the number and then it does it all for you. Like, you don't want to make them feel like they're less than a person because they have dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, like all those other things. You just need to be a human being and ask them, what can I do to help? I know it's the most insane response ever. I'm so sorry. And I know that we're way over time, aren't we? Are we on time? Weiss, can I do one more question? Oh, she got you.
I have a brother who, you know, has a lot of similar issues to what you've been talking about, and he's in his 40s. He wasn't diagnosed properly. I don't think he's comfortable disclosing during interview processes that he has challenges, and then he doesn't last long in the job.
Yeah.
And it's time, you know, happens in the time. So what kind of advice, you know, you mentioned job hopping, what kind of advice do you have for people like him to make them feel human?
Yeah, come see me. Like literally, we help them through that process of getting employment opportunities, because even though he may not disclose in the interview, if he's talking to us, we're gonna kind of get that out of him. And then we're gonna know how to set him up for success when we work with ABC company. And if he doesn't want to have any of that assistance, it's really going to be a challenge. And then you're going to be dependent on the companies who heed my advice today and ask up front, you know, what do you need to have to do this job well? Like it's chicken and egg, but we take the onus on for that individual like your brother to be like, hey, listen, we're already going to know about your brother, right? We're going to know what he needs to get through the job and through the daily responsibilities before going to work at that company, right? Like, am I making sense to you? And if I didn't answer your question, you got to tell me.
No, you did. The problem is he's in Europe.
Oh, well, listen, I got people in Europe. Like, no, I have a ton of friends. Special Listerna is over there. I have a boatload of people that I can put you in contact with that do similar things to what we do in Europe. Just let me know. All right, now we're good, right? All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm gonna grab one.
Thank you guys for joining us today. If you're interested, next month, we have another out of office that's focused on your financial archetype. So make sure to keep your eye out for that sign up. Thanks, guys.
Nice. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Was that the lady's question that you would like them to after they find a job?
No, before. Yeah, we'll help them through the opportunities. Like we can talk to them.
Her brother's situation is similar to my son.
Oh, really?